And they seem to bear some resemblance to this Quaker bonnet. So I'm trying to narrow in on this pasteboard shape.
Where the side gutters are very pronounced, that starts to emerge around the 1760s.
Clothing very gradually changes in the 18th century.
So the runaway advertisement described the woman's appearance and her clothing in the hopes that she might be identified and returned to her master, thereby recapturing his investment in her and her clothing.
The Art of Period Dress Conference allowed participants to hear lectures from experts in the field, as well as get hands-on experience making their own authentic period clothing. Everything from bonnets and caps to market wallets and aprons. Crossroads of the American Revolution National Heritage Area partner with the Hunterdon County Cultural and Heritage Commission to get heritage partners comfortable getting dressed 18th century style.
Most of the people here today are from historic sites throughout New Jersey. They're heritage partners, which are people that belong to historical societies and sites and are within the National Heritage Area of New Jersey.
Wearing your hat with the no, don't do that.
Most Americans believe what they learn when they're visiting history museums. It's a responsibility as people who provide this type of information to the public that we get it right.
Usually what I do in the field following the Army, I do not put the high hair in.
A lot of things that I do involve helping our volunteers to dress and look the part as well. And so having these little tricks about, where exactly should men's trousers sit, what do women's caps need to look like? Because a lot of times it's something that we don't deal with every day. And so learning some things that I can take back is really exciting. I wanted to make sure I looked like a great 18th century lady. And so making sure I would get that hairstyle, getting it all nice and puffed. A lot of times we see caps sitting really far forward or really kind of far back. But where do we want it to sit to look accurate?
I had a 30-year career in film and television. Historic costuming is different than theatrical costuming. So there are always tips for me to learn, even as a professional, because I learned the nuance of the everyday wear.
Then take your cap. This is lovely.
Isn't it fun to put on hats when you just have a chance to? And that's what we had the chance to do yesterday. A whole array of maybe 40 different styles of little caps.
In your kit, you have the instructions. You have 2 brim pieces that are pre-cut. These bonnets are made out of what is called in the time bonnet board. They're adjustable in the back, and we will be happy to pass it around. And they will fold flat for traveling. And they perch on top of your head. We are getting the rudiments down for making the classic black silk bonnet for the 18th century. You do not want the glue too close to this front edge.
This is absolutely my first bonnet, which will sit eventually on top of my first cap. I only started doing historic reenactment probably maybe a year and a half ago. So I'm working on a wardrobe gradually. It's a time-consuming but really, really interesting hobby.
These are black silk bonnets, and that were very popular in the 18th century. They're silk. It's very interesting using silk thread and black on black sewing here.
Later on, buttoning just at the center, because the silhouette changed by the 60s and 70s. So I'm wearing a coat more typical of the 1750s. It's very full in its cut, especially in the pleats. It's very full in the cuffs, and it buttons down to the waist and all the way down. By the 60s and 70s, that form changes for the focal point to move up from the waist to move towards the center of the chest. To really force that kind of sweeping sort of look.
One of the keynote presentations was the study of working-class women's clothing with an analysis of newspaper ads for runaway slaves and indentured servants.
And they're full of all this really tantalizing stuff, like this blue waistcoat with green sleeves and this short gown with a black stripe around the back and a red and yellow check Joseph with ruffled sleeves, and these things are really tantalizing. We want to grab onto them and we want to use them. I think I've been in living history now for almost 30 years, and I think that we all come from different walks of life. We all love history, but we might be trained as doctors or lawyers, and we wonder exactly how do we learn how to tell the story of history and how to make it personal and how to use certain resources well. And I think one of the resources that I've dug into, which was the runaway advertisement from newspapers, I hope to give people a good understanding of the value of this resource and how to make the stories of the women who are documented in those runaway advertisements, how to make it personal and how to share it with others.
I'm just going to stretch this out. Needs a lot more heat.
Andrew Kirk is a high school art teacher by day, but he's also known for making quality hats and leather goods for 18th century reenactors.
I was always interested in how things were created and making things, and that's been the thread which has run through my whole experience doing history and art-related things. I really just wanted to make the best things that I could based off of what kinds of research I was doing.
There's a little bit of a lip of linen here underneath my robing.
My goal here is to take some of my experience in wearing 18th century clothing to pass on some of the knowledge I have around that, because I think it really helps to be accurate if you're being comfortable too. I'm hoping they're going to come away with the tools they need to go out and make and wear living history clothes with more knowledge and comfort and accuracy.
And all you have to do is whip stitch or hem stitch that, just little stitches across, and then you're done.
Funding for the Art of Period Dress was made possible in part by the Hunterdon County Cultural and Heritage Commission through a grant from the New Jersey Historical Commission, a division of the Department of State, Investors Foundation, and Crossroads of the American Revolution National Heritage Area.